Lesson 2.6 is on graphing in 4 quadrants. Now that we have introduced negative numbers or integers in Chapter 2, we are ready to graph in all 4 quadrants. Remember that in the first quadrant, which we were graphing last chapter, in the first quadrant we have positive numbers. We have positive numbers to the right and positive numbers up. In 2.6, we introduce the negative numbers and positive numbers, which this will be quadrant 2, and the negative numbers and the negative numbers, this is quadrant 3, and then the positive numbers and the negative numbers, which is quadrant 4. So we have quadrants 1, 2, 3, and 4. One way to remember that is that if you draw the letter C, that's the order that they go in. We have the x-axis, we have the y-axis, and the origin at 0, 0. All of those are vocabulary words that you need to be familiar with. In example 1, we're graphing ordered pairs. The x-coordinate is -4, the y-coordinate is -3, the ordered pair is -4, -3, which is letter J. Jumping down to 1a at the bottom of page 83, over 0, up 5. So over 0 means on the x-axis we stay at 0. 5 is the y-coordinate, and we go up 5. We see the letter M. 0, 5 is that coordinate. For the letter K, to get to the letter K, we go over to -5 on the x-axis, and we go up 2. So the coordinate is -5, 2 for the letter K. On page 84, on example 2, we start looking at the quadrants. As I mentioned before, quadrant 1 is positive, positive. In quadrant 2, we have negative, positive. Quadrant 3, negative, negative. And in quadrant 4, positive, negative. So in example 2, we are going to be locating points, and we are actually plotting points on the graph, and then we will say what quadrant it's in. On your note sheet, you have a piece of graph paper, actually a graph image next to the problems for example 2. You can use that graph to plot points H, I, and J. For -3 would be over 4, down 3, which is in quadrant 4. Notice the Roman numeral for 4 is IV. For 2b, -1, 4 would be up here in the second quadrant. Okay, make sure you plot the point and you note the quadrant. For 2c, we're going to start at 0, 0 at the origin and go over 0, so we're going to stay on the y-axis and go down 2. So notice that 0, -2 is not in one of the quadrants, it's actually on the y-axis. So we say none, and the point would be right here at -2. On example 3, we have a story problem where we are given the information that the difference, the subtraction, between John and Terry's golf score is 2. If John's score is X and Y is Terry's score, we have an expression here of X minus Y, and then we know that it's equal to 2, so we have an equation. So we have choose some values for X, and so that's what we did here in the X column. And then if we know that the difference has to be 2, we can substitute that X value in to our equation and solve for Y. And then we can plot those ordered pairs onto a graph. For example 3, got it? We have a similar situation where, this case, the sum of 2 golf scores is 3. So we have X and we have Y, and that is equal to 3. What are some possible values for X and Y to be equal to 3? Well, we could have 1 and 2. That makes an ordered pair. Okay. We also have 0 and 3. We also have 3 and 0. You come up with a few more ordered pairs that add up to 3 and put that on your note sheet, and then use the graph provided to plot those points on the graph. And to describe the graph, you should see something similar to the example right above where you have a line, a linear relationship here where it increases by the same number each time when you're graphing. So we'll talk more about that when we get into graphing linear equations, but for now you need to know how to take a story problem, write an equation like we did right here, and then come up with some possible values to graph on a coordinate plane. Finally, on your note sheet, you just need to come up with something that you need to remember about graphing ordered pairs. I know a lot of students get confused when they're graphing ordered pairs with zeros. They kind of forget which axis to go on, and so I'll see a lot of 0, 3s plotted on the x-axis, and I'll see a lot of things like 4, 0 plotted on the y-axis. So that's something to remember, that pay attention to the zeros when you're plotting points, and remember that the order of the quadrants is in the letter C. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can use one of those things to remember, or you can write down your own thing to remember about graphing ordered pairs. If you need any extra help, let me know.